Liz Wheeler is here. She is the host of BlazeTV's The Liz Wheeler Show. She broke the news early yesterday that the federal government has been subsidizing Politico, not to the tune of $6 million, but $34.3 million. She has the receipts. Liz, welcome to the program.
Hi, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So the media is now saying this is a right-wing conspiracy. There's nothing to see here. But if the Trump administration, if those people were all subscribers to The Blaze and we were getting $6 million or $35 million from the Trump administration, even if it was all legitimate, they would go apoplectic. So tell me why
this should.
What?
This is what, as they should go apoplectic if that were happening. This is one of the biggest media scandals of this decade, and it's also a litmus test. Anybody in the swamp, anybody elected politician, anybody in the media who's defending Politico getting this amount of money from the federal government, they're part of the problem. They're the baddies, not the goodies here. So what's happening is yesterday we woke up to news that Politico had received $8 million from USAID. USAID, of course, is a so-called autonomous agency of the federal government that Elon Musk has been doging. He's been exposing corruption within that agency.
Yeah, it's a CIA front. It's a CIA front. It is in charge of all of the color revolutions all around the world and the color revolution that they've been trying to pull here in America. Anyway, go ahead.
That's exactly right. I was going to say it's the nexus of the censorship industrial complex. They've taken their political warfare abroad and aimed it back at us. So no better target for Elon Musk than USAID. This is a scandal in and of itself that Politico was receiving $8 million from them in 2024. But what my team and I did is we went onto this website where any American citizen can find out how their taxpayer money is spent. It's called usaspending.gov, and you plug in the name of any recipient organization group. We typed Politico into the keyword, and then instead of just looking at year 2024, we said all fiscal years. Let's see how much Politico's received in the last 10 years. And what we found before our very eyes, it began to populate millions upon millions of dollars, totaling $34.3 million. And Glenn, this is not just from USAID. This is from a veritable laundry list of the most corrupt federal government swampy agencies like the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, sub-agencies like the FDA and the CDC and the EPA. And if you look at when these subsidies started, they started just about the moment that Trump descended on that golden elevator in 2015. That's when the gravy train for Politico started. And then you can see it year by year in 2020 and 2021, when Joe Biden took office, all of a sudden these subsidies to Politico increased exponentially. And of course, you'll have these defenders saying, well, these are just subscriptions that federal government employees paid for Politico Pro. It's like a $10,000 a year subscription. They claim it's a premium service.
Aimed right for the Beltway. Aimed right directly at the Beltway. So go ahead.
100%. Well, first of all, that's clinically insane to pay $10,000 for a subscription service. That's not a subsidy. That is patronage if you are paying $10,000. Yes. But this is what money laundering is, right? It's nebulous. It's vague. It's money is fungible. So if the bulk of your revenue or a huge percentage of your revenue is coming from so-called federal government employees that are paying this exorbitant fee, what are you going to expect in response? You're going to expect in response coverage exactly like Politico has given us, where they told us the Hunter Biden laptop story isn't real, that it was Russian disinformation.
Like they were the leader on that. They were the leader on that. Yep.
Yes, of course, which makes sense when you think about where they're getting all this $34.3 million from. They were defenders of the COVID-19 jab, the Moderna jab, even for young men, which we now know it's very dangerous. They're the ones, Glenn, that they broke the story when the Supreme Court leaker leaked that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs case. They were the ones that published that. So they are an arm. They're a propaganda arm of the federal government.
This, as you said, is the biggest scandal in media. So you know, Liz, just a point of information that most people don't know. During the Obama administration, it may still be true, I don't know, you couldn't not only get to BlazeTV to log on a government computer, you couldn't go to TheBlaze.com. It was banned as a website for the government.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So so anybody who is like, wow, they were just, well, there are a lot of people that wanted to, subscribe personally, not through their office, and just be able to listen or watch or just get their news from the news site, theblaze.com. And they were blocked. Every government employee was blocked.
I did not know that. I mean, that it proves exactly what we've been saying. First of all, there is no justification on the face of this earth for $34.3 million to be given from the federal government agencies to a supposedly objective media organization. There's no explanation for it. We all know that. The swamp creatures that are defending it are just exposing their true colors here. We're not always lucky enough to have an email that says this $10,000 is for the big guy or this 10% is for the big guy. But we know we're smart people. We use common sense. We know how human nature works. We know that if the federal government is giving this exorbitant amount of money to a media organization, what they're going to get in return is coverage and cover-ups and propaganda and emotional manipulation, and exactly what we've seen from Politico for the past decade, coincidentally, since this gravy train began. And one comment on, the Blaze TV, I double checked this morning to see how much our subscriptions are, because I was like, okay, I pay for a couple of subscriptions to even mainstream media outlets, although I really try not to because I don't like to give them my money, but I need to for research purposes sometimes.
Me too.
Normal people pay $100 a year. That's what, if you go to blazetv.com/Liz, is $120 for an annual subscription, and you can get $20 off. That's what normal people pay. And even then, they probably share the login, which also normal people do.
Well, we don't encourage that, but yes, you're right. I mean, my initial payment to open the doors, I had a few partners, and I can't remember what they gave, but it was probably around $10 million together. And I had put in $20 million myself. We started this entire operation with $30 million. $30 million is what kicked off the Blaze when the technology didn't even exist, that we had to invent all of this stuff to do it. To have $34 million coming in from the federal government, they are your master. They are absolutely your master. Could you talk about one thing, Liz? The press is hanging their hat on the fact that some media outlets said that was the cause of them not making payroll was DOGE. That didn't have anything to do with it, did it?
Well, it depends on if you are a swamp creature and you view the world through your own twisted reality, or if you're a normal person that can look at things that probably aren't coincidences. We were told that according to this initial report that Politico had never missed a paycheck before. So I would just pose questions to all of us normies. Do you think that's a coincidence that the day that their gravy train is cut off, that they're not able to make payroll? It doesn't seem coincidental to me.
It's funny because one of my producers knows one of the people at Politico, and on the phone all day yesterday arguing back and forth. And this person said, we have payroll glitches here all the time. And I thought, I've never had a payroll glitch. If I'd get another payroll service if it was glitchy all the time. So, I mean, they either have the worst payroll service, which there's lots of them out there you can get that actually work, or there was something else going on. But that's not the story. The story is... that's what they're using to distract from the $34.3 million. Even the subscriptions are a distraction, because they don't want us to think $34.3 million given from basically the Biden regime to Politico. It is one of the most significant scandals the mainstream media has ever been exposed without an excuse being in the middle of that I can remember. So we also found out yesterday that our federal government gave millions of dollars to the BBC. The BBC frickin' C. That's supposed to be the Queen's money, not our money. What the hell are we doing funding the BBC? I mean, go ahead.
No, listen, this is what's so critical to understand. The reason that people I don't know if you've been watching Brian Stelter's X feed. It's quite funny because he's freaking out about this. The same with Jen Psaki on MSNBC. She was like, there's a hostile takeover of the federal government happening because you and I are identifying ways that taxpayer money has been corruptly abused. That's a hostile takeover in her mind. But the reason they're freaking out about this isn't just because their pet projects won't be funded anymore or they won't have a login to their gossip rag, Politico magazine or whatever it is. The reason they're freaking out is because their mechanism of controlling us hinges on the mainstream media outlets, these corporate media outlets running propaganda for them. And they'll never be able to lie to us and emotionally manipulate us if the media isn't taking a leading role in that. And now they can't.
On top of that, they also have lost their gravy train through the NGOs. They found a way to get all of their radical friends to open up an NGO and then funnel millions of dollars into it. So they can do everything that they want with taxpayer dollars. If you look at just USAID's 2023 fact sheet, the agency supported 6,200 journalists, 707 news outlets, 279 media sector civil society organizations, and this comes from the Columbia Journalism Review. Now, I don't know if you've got 6,000 journalists on your payroll, you could probably influence a few people. This has got to stop, and I don't know what it's going to take for your neighbors to stop listening to the mainstream media. That's why it's important not to say, in my opinion, that this is why they didn't make payroll. Because we can't prove that. We don't know. Great coincidence, but we don't know. It's important to say, but this is provably true. It's the thing with Ben Stiller and, Angelina Jolie going over to Ukraine, getting $20 million. That didn't happen. That's not true. You need to know what the truth is because the truth itself is so unbelievably powerful that you need to know what that is, and that's what we try to give you here every day. Liz, thank you for this expose. It's great.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it.
You bet.